Hello and welcome, everyone. My name is Karen, and I'll be the host for today's discussion on rewiring the brain, meditation, neuroplasticity, and peak performance. This is being hosted from Harshi International University. Our tagline is Home of Consciousness-Based Education. And some of our webinars are very much on a topic of a specific degree program, but today is general knowledge that's available for anybody. It's really pitched at anybody who's interested in these topics. We will also address those of you who are prospective students, but it would be important for us to understand the origin story of our university and how we define consciousness. So originally, you could think of this university as originating in an intentional community, a group of people that moved to Fairfield, Iowa, southeast corner of Iowa, to form groups that meditate together twice a day and to make this a very important priority. And out of a very young, enthusiastic group of 20-year-olds who gathered from Ivy League universities, they got very excited in a whole new style of education, a university degree that could offer an opportunity to develop and grow in higher states of consciousness. And the ideas and principles and practices come from the founder, Maharishi Mahesh Yogi, who is known worldwide for bringing transcendental meditation. But along the way, he also guided these principles that contribute to this idea of consciousness-based education. So some of the principles include practicing meditation together as a community twice a day in the morning and in the afternoon. So the technique that we use is transcendental meditation. At the same time, it's also important to integrate this practice with new principles of understanding that integrate a paradigm of consciousness. And there's two general ideas about consciousness that you'll hear in this presentation. One is that there's this self-awareness that begins to grow with meditation. As you enliven the inner core of life, more and more awareness begins to grow, which is an interesting idea that you can actually grow consciousness. The other important idea is that we're presenting consciousness as a capital C field of awareness, a field of creative intelligence underlying all of creativity and underlying our conscious thought and underlying creation. So the idea is that as you enliven your own consciousness, you're also tapping into this field. And this is where the idea of cultivating your neural physiology for peak performance comes in. And today we're very excited to have senior experts, Dr. Fred Travis and Gerry Geer, discuss these ideas. Okay, so heading into the webinar, we're going to be covering these three core ideas: the science of neuroplasticity and personal transformation, unlocking higher potential through consciousness-based education, and three, how meditation reshapes the brain for peak performance. So you're all in for a treat, and let's just say after this discussion, perhaps you'll experience a paradigm shift or a new aha, or perhaps you can reinvigorate your meditation practice. All right, so let's have our panelists turn on their videos. We want to see all of their smiley faces, and want to mention that in addition to Dr. Travis and Professor Geer, we have Johannes Schweigel and Krista Noble, who are two of our gems. They're professors at Maharishi International University, and they're going to really integrate this idea of how a university education can rewire the brain. And I do see some people chatting in, so we wanted to encourage as much of that as possible. If you'd like to actually tell us where you're chatting in from and what drew you to the discussion today, go ahead and let us know that you're real and that you're alive. Okay, so we're going to start with Dr. Travis. And Dr. Travis teaches graduate level courses on brain and consciousness. He's authored 78 research articles and book chapters investigating the effects of transcendental meditation on child development, ADHD in children, post-traumatic stress in veterans and refugees, brain patterns of higher states of consciousness. And you could say he really is the world's most highly cited researcher in the fast emerging field of meditation, brain development, and higher states of consciousness. So Dr. Travis, take it away and feel free to include any other introductory points that I might have missed.
Thank you very much, Karen. It's great to be here. I look at the brain to understand consciousness because the brain is the interface between you and the world. I cannot see your consciousness, but I can see how the brain, the interface, is functioning. And then we get some insight about what's happening. So we'll be looking at these different points. Rewiring the brain, meditation, neuroplasticity, and peak performance. Now, first, neuroplasticity. Experience changes the brain. Your brain is a self-adapting organ. It's not a rock. It's a river. 70% of brain connections change every day. What scientists have done is they've taken some dye, they put it into a cell. This is in a zebrafish. And then they took a picture, minute by minute, what is happening to the cell. And what you're seeing here is that center area. Here, this is a cell body. This line going down to the right is the output fiber. All these other lines, they're called dendrites, those are input fibers. You see, our brain cells are information processors. Each dot that you see is a place, it's called the synapse. That's where another neuron sends information to this neuron. And the scientists took every minute a picture. I'm going to show you, they took the pictures and they put them side by side. And this is what the brain is doing, minute by minute. You'll notice the dendrites are moving either away from a cell or towards a cell. The number of branches are increasing or decreasing. Again, this is minute by minute. And as we go in, we'll see that these dots, which are the synapses, come and go. If they're used, they actually they become larger, more express. If they're not, they're taken back in. This is what your brain is doing. So we're sculpting our brain with every experience. For instance, driving a taxi cab. The parts of the brain needed for driving a taxi cab, estimating distance, looking for unexpected features, spontaneous route planning, these parts of your brain are physically thicker. If you play a violin, the left hand, which has all of the intricate chords, part of the brain that supports the left hand is 8 times larger than part of the brain that supports the right hand. You're just holding the bow. Experience changes the brain, and this is where meditation experience is important. First, how does the brain function during the day? So it's looking to the right, this little red area in the center, it's called the thalamus. It's a switchboard, and information comes from outside, from the ears, eyes, touch, taste. Thalamus sends information to the cortex. You get a neural loop that represents the outside world. At the same time, we get wakefulness through the brainstem. These also create loops with the cortex, but these maintain wakefulness. Now, if your meditation is a focused attention meditation where you have one experience, you can just see this blue circle is going to be going over and over and over and over. Could be Vipassana, breath focus. You simply focus on the abdomen moving in and out, and that completely fills awareness. Now, the brain is actually constantly getting information. It's more something comes from vision, something from hearing, something from thoughts, something from emotions. Other meditations, like mindfulness, you note what's happening right now, what's happening right now. You don't try to change, you don't try to fix, you just notice what's happening right now. So these meditations are involved in thinking. Karen mentioned we ask our students to practice transcendental meditation. It's unique that it's structured for transcending, where you learn to take a specific thought, and with that thought, the mind becomes more quiet. The thoughts become secondary in experience. What becomes more primary is the underlying field of wakefulness, that part of you that's whole, that's full, awake. That's becoming fuller in your awareness. And these circuits to maintain this begin to permeate the world. What we see here is brain coherence. I'll go back. You notice that each of these circles are coming from the same point. So the electrical activity on the surface is connected, is coherent. What's happening at one lead is following the same signals that the next lead, the next lead. Also, it's taking 100 milliseconds to go from the thalamus to the cortex and back. So in a second, it goes up 10 times per second. So we looked at what happens over long term. This is a year. People come to MIU, a third have not yet learned Transcendental Meditation. They learn it in the course that Johannes and Krista have taught. And we looked at their EEG when they're sitting with the eyes closed and when they were doing a task. Eyes are open, they're doing things. Trained in TM 2 months later. We see higher coherence during TM compared to eyes closed. And that's just because the mind is completely settled. The whole brain is humming to itself. But look at this. During the task, there's more of that coherence seen during their TM. 6 months, 12 months, we see you reach the same high level of coherence during TM practice. What changes? It begins to become more part of our daily activity. And what is the it that's becoming more part? What it is that part of you that's whole, that's silent, that's full, that's expanded. And this is a fundamental basis for peak performance. Looking at brain integration for peak performance. Brain integration is this integration of the EEG patterns we see during TM with what EEG patterns needed for outside activity. World-class athletes, they participate in world games, national games, and those that finished in the top 10 for 3 seasons had higher levels of brain integration. They had more of this brain pattern of inner silence, suggesting they have just greater resilience, greater inner directedness. Managers, same thing, top level managers, higher levels of brain integration. And these are managers that have been CEOs for 18 years or longer. Their company had grown. Musicians, professional, amateur, these are classical musicians in Scandinavia. And what we find is higher levels of brain integration in both the professional and amateur musicians. And that's because if you play music as a child, your brain is actually wired differently as an adult because experience changes the brain and you're putting your attention not on sequential, intellective language, math like that. You're looking more at the wholeness of music. The last, we're seeing brain integration in long-term practitioners of transcendental meditation and short-term. And I put this up not to say that if you meditate, you're going to be a peak performer. No, what I'm trying to say is if you meditate, you're creating that fertile field, that silence, that strength, that stability within. So you will be a peak performer wherever you turn your attention, be it athletes, managers, musicians, business, art, being with the family. Thank you. Here's my email if you have any, if you wish to contact me. Thank you for this time to talk, Karen.
All right, we have beautiful follow-up questions. I mean, that was an incredible presentation on many important points. One is that there's a separation between content and this awareness, this field of awareness. It's an important concept. And then there's this idea of rewiring the brain. It's constantly happening. So how can we do that to better set us up for peak performance? Along the way, people are here chatting in, they're here to control the destructive thoughts. They're here to help with panic and anxiety, and meditation comes up in that regard. How does TM address the destructive thoughts, and how does that compare or contrast with perhaps mindfulness meditation?
How it does it is by going to a place which is beneath the thoughts, from where the thoughts are coming. And that place is that inner field of wakefulness. And in that place, you're whole, you're full, you feel safe, you feel complete. And it's not an intellective affirmation, it's a direct experience, because when your mind settles down, what is there? And that is experiencing that part of you that's whole, universal. And so when you come back to the world, you see the world differently. Anxiety is you feel like, I can't deal with this. It's too much. You're as if overwhelmed by whatever other needs of the situation. If you can strengthen yourself, if yourself can become broader and fuller, more centered, you find that that which caused you problems before do not now. It's a crossfade because every experience is the situation and you as the knower. And what you're doing is you're strengthening the knower so all situations are seen differently.
Well, thank you for that. And I think this is a good place now to start unfolding this unique framework of higher states of consciousness. So let's bring Professor Gerry Geer and Dr. Travis. Thank you so much. Someone did ask, I think, for access to your research. Maybe you could pop a reference or a website into the chat line so they
I'll
can
do that.
contribute. Okay, or one of their top YouTube talks. There's a lot of great talks by Dr. Travis on YouTube. So we're going to bring Professor Gerry Geer in, and I think of him as the higher states of consciousness guy. He's probably the premier expert on really unfolding Maharishi unique framework for neurophysiology and enlightenment. Maharishi was really able to draw out these components that make meditation and enlightenment, make sure they're grounded in neurophysiology. So we have a clear understanding of how these two work off of each other. And Professor Gerry has been teaching higher states of consciousness at MIU. Let me get the number. I had the number of students. So you've been teaching for over 30 years. You've taught the higher states of consciousness course for the past 25 years to over 2,500 students. You're also really an expert guide for TM retreats. So perhaps you could tell us how this framework works and how you can use Transcendental Meditation and the retreat program to ensure that you're moving steadily towards enlightenment.
Thanks so much, Karen. It's wonderful to be here with everybody. Now, as Dr. Travis so beautifully just explained, when we have an opportunity to settle down spontaneously and experience that most quiet value of consciousness at the basis of the thinking process, then the nervous system has a chance to start to integrate that experience into daily life. It starts to change, the brain starts to change, the functioning of the nervous system starts to change, and the result of that is that the inner quietness that was hidden before now starts to become not so much hidden. It starts to become a little bit more permanently maintained. And as it becomes more permanently maintained, we find ourselves operating from that level of inner silence. Operating from that level means that greater creativity is available to us, greater freedom, greater intelligence, and the solutions to previously challenging situations come much more spontaneously. The net result is that we are able to grow and accomplish what we want to accomplish in daily life much more effectively. From there, we become able to appreciate the world much more deeply, not merely on the surface level of things, but from a more expanded perspective within. Our perception is able to penetrate more deeply into the world around us, to finer and finer levels of the beauty that's already there within creation, until the full range of creation is opening to our enjoyment of it, which creates much greater richness in daily life in every way. Ultimately, we start to experience the world in terms of our own being, in terms of our own self. The full richness of creation is open to us because that is based on the stabilized value of consciousness within that allows us to experience the full value of consciousness without in terms of creation. So that is a very quick tour through a very rich subject matter. And I hope that all of you will have a chance to dive in and start to enjoy that knowledge of the growth of higher states of consciousness, which Dr. Travis's research is confirming so beautifully, and start to experience that growth within yourselves so that you can enjoy your lives more and more fully in every possible way.
That's a perfect start. And we've got 3 questions that I think will integrate beautifully into this framework. I mean, one thing you're bringing out is this framework of step-by-step unfoldment of these milestone states of consciousness, and it's a very natural process. So we're getting questions about how would this process unfold for TM versus maybe another kind of meditation practice. I mean, if you did another guided meditation practice, could we expect the same results? Perhaps this is something about, knowledge and experience and the role of how those two are linked.
Yes, this is a beautiful question and one that comes up quite regularly, naturally, because there are many meditation practices out in the world today, and people are enjoying those. Dr. Travis has done some great work showing the differences in brain functioning that are created by different practices of meditation. They are structuring the brain in different ways, and they all have value. There's definitely value in mindfulness. There's a lot of good research showing that. As Dr. Travis pointed out, the purpose of transcendental meditation is really transcendence. We want to transcend the activity of the mind, whereas mindfulness tends to have our attention more on specific what's going on. We are mindful of what's going on, so to speak, in various ways. So with transcendental meditation, the effects of deep rest, deep silence, the transformed value of physiology, these tend to be deeper as far as the research is concerned than for other meditation techniques, because what we want is to, again, step outside of the activity of the mind and experience the field of pure consciousness at the basis of the thinking process, that inner value of wakefulness that underlies our ability to experience anything at all. If we are starting to experience that and to grow in that value, then all the expressed values of thinking in our lives, including our mental activities, including our abilities of attention to appreciate the different aspects of our world more fully, all of those things are going to get enriched spontaneously as that innermost value of pure consciousness continues to be established.
You can't think your way to going beyond thought.
Exactly. That transcending process needs to be spontaneous. And one of the beauties of the TM practice is that it makes use only of what's already built in. Our minds already are built to move spontaneously in a direction of greater fascination, greater charm. The classic example, if you're reading a dull book in the living room and someone turns on your favorite song in the kitchen, your attention moves. It's spontaneous. There's no effort involved. And likewise, the body is already structured, given the need, given the necessary rest, to remove to any imbalances or any kinds of twists and turns in the functioning that may have crept in there. And with transcendental meditation, this is all that we make use of, that mind's natural tendency to seek out greater charm, which carries us beyond thought to that field of pure consciousness at the foundation of thinking. And the body's ability, when gaining deep rest through that process, to remove spontaneously these stresses and fatigues and imbalances that are preventing us from living that inner value of pure consciousness all the time.
That was now a clear picture of the mechanics of transcendence, and that when you're wanting to really go beyond thought and experience, feel the pure consciousness, the mechanics of how you use the mantra is a very significant consideration. Not to negate the value of other techniques, but you just want to understand that the research needs to line up with the technique that you're investigating, and that the model changes depending on what you're looking at in the research. So sometimes if you just see a specific research result from one technique, you don't want to transpose that to, all meditation types. So this is really something that we'd love to call Dr. Travis back to address, but let's see if we have time at the end for further investigation. I know it's a hot topic, but What we want to do now is bring our professors, Johannes and Krista, in and take a couple, well, 5 minutes or so to talk about what is a university education like that really attends to the topics today. How would we set ourselves up for success and ensure that wherever we are, any university, we can take this technique and optimize our time in education. And Johannes, you're welcome to speak specifically about what you're doing in your classroom. Maybe you can also talk about how to get started on TM, and can you learn it from YouTube? There's so many people offering techniques. Yeah, one of those.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for asking these questions. So, as we heard before, basically TM is really, it's a powerful tool. It's a wonderful way to really experience yourself. And that is a lot what the education at MIU is all about. So it's not just about learning fascinating subjects, which we could find in the various majors that we offer, but it's also about learning who you are as a human being and connecting with yourself, connecting with your innermost essence. And that is why we introduce Transcendental Meditation as a core aspect of our curriculum. So it's not just academics, but it's sort of personal academics. It's all in terms of who you are as a human being. And so that's why also in the first course, we immediately try to bring these two together. So in the first 2 weeks, you're just sort of settling in. You're an online student, you're learning the technique, or maybe you've already learned it. And we're very easy on the course load in this first few weeks. And we're helping you to customize to this new environment. How can I be successful as an online student? Discovering how do you learn? How can you set up your schedule to accommodate all the various roles you play in your life? And once that is done in these first 2 weeks, then in weeks 3 and 4, we really dive deep into the big questions of life, which are what is consciousness? What is the human mind? What are thoughts? Where do they come from? How do I gain reliable knowledge in this fast-paced world? So that you immediately have this tandem, this combination of both direct experience, diving deep within yourself, and then connecting that to like both philosophical but also very practical questions.
Do you deal with the physicalist versus consciousness-based paradigm? And can you talk
Absolutely.
about this? Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. When we consider the question, what is consciousness, we really explore the three main schools of thought, we could say, which are scientific materialism, which basically postulates, well, consciousness is an illusion. It's an illusionary byproduct of the biological functioning of the human brain. So it's not existent, it's made up. And then you have the dualists who say there's two different phases of life, the body or the material, and then mind or consciousness. And then lastly, there is the idea that essentially everything is consciousness. It's all there is. And even the material manifestations you see are just an expression of that underlying field. So we consider all of these and introduce them. And then again, also connected with the direct experience you make in your daily practice, you can then consider for yourself which of these viewpoints makes most sense to you at this point in time.
Russell says, I love this. So I don't know exactly what point that was, but that's encouraging to receive that response. Thank you.
Yeah, it's really fascinating stuff, and our students really love, especially these like the first course, and also of course the courses beyond. But it really makes you feel like you're finally getting some answers to the big questions you may have been asking yourself all your life. And it's not just that, but now you're in a cohort where you can explore that together. And so we have fascinating lectures and assignments that help you to integrate them. But then we also have these very interactive webinars. And there you get together with a lot of just amazing people and exploring these fascinating themes. And I think that is a big part of what makes this like such a transformative experience.
Yeah. Any tips for, like, let's say you can't get started right now at this university. Do you have any tips for finding the right resource for learning transcendental meditation?
Yeah, I would say, well, I mean, most of our audience is probably based in the US, I would say. So, so you could provide the websites, but here's the important thing. It's not something that you can learn of a book or learn just by watching some YouTube video. You can get started there and get some information, like we heard by Dr. Travis, on like the various benefits it provides for your brain and for your own development. But then, if you're really serious about learning it, then you should consult a teacher of transcendental meditation, a certified teacher who went through the rigorous training and is comfortable and confident in providing you with that tool, that powerful tool, so that we can experience that effortless that Professor Geer talked about.
Sounds like we also need a new webinar on a follow-up for all the follow-up questions, but we're getting to the
Sure.
point where I think we should highlight some of the unique transformational stories. And I wanted to bring Krista in for that, but Johannes, you can stay on too. It's fine. So Krista, you've taught a number of courses, including Exploring Consciousness. What kind of transformation have you seen in the students pre, post TM, or even just early on in the education versus later on? I mean, is it at an academic level, or are you seeing other aspects of life change as well?
Definitely holistic changes. So both on an academic level, but on a personal level as well. One of the fun things is I often teach one of the first courses that students take when they come here called Exploring Consciousness, which goes into a lot of the really deep principles that Johannes was just sharing. And it's neat to see because many of the students in that course, they only started doing TM a few weeks before the course started, or right as the course started. Um, and yet, just a few weeks into the course, there's a survey, and we ask the students about how their TM practice is going and also if they've noticed any changes in their daily lives. And it's really amazing that even in that very short time period, many of them notice very strong differences in their lives, in how they're processing stress and how they're dealing with challenging situations. And so, they find that the technique enjoyable and beneficial right away, but they also start to notice they're just a little bit calmer, a little more patient. They start to notice these changes right away. And even that the learning process becomes easier, that they can take in new information a little bit more easily, that things that used to seem abstract start to click a little more. So even just in those first few weeks, it really is wonderful to hear some of their reports on the experiences that they're already having and the changes they're already starting to see in themselves. But then, yeah, it is great too, over the course of their education to interact again with these same students and see how they're thriving. And many of them, subjects that initially might have thrown them a little bit, they've just become very strong, very confident in, and overall just become much more grounded, just much more capable of handling whatever life throws at them. Kind of like an anchor deep in the ocean that's just like keeping the ship from getting tossed around by the waves too much, because the waves are still going to be out there, but if you're deeply anchored within, then you can just handle whatever life throws at you.
Thank you for that. You're speaking to the community aspect, and which is really important in online education. You want to know when you're seeking a university if the learning environment is conducive to growth. And I've heard this idea of a second home, especially among Gen Z generation. They're looking for another place that's a community to tap into. And Johannes, do you have anything you want to add? I know I've spoken to one of your former students who said that the course felt so intentional, as if the knowledge was penetrating into his life and interacting and intersecting with all these other personal aspects. And by the final lesson, he felt like set up for success. So yeah, you can touch on maybe personal examples you've seen, or just speak to that community feel that you generate online.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, there's quite a lot of powerful transformations, and we see them both in the assignments that students submit, but then also in the feedback that we get at the end of the course. And most, or even maybe even all of our students, they still play various other roles. They're parents, They work full-time jobs. They do so many different things. And what we find is that the transformations not only take place on the field of academics, but also in their personal lives. And they feel a lot more equipped to deal with the inevitable challenges that will still come our way, be it grief, be it professional situations, or even just juggling all the various roles of family and professional and then student life. And I think that's also where we see like tremendous, tremendous progress. And students just feel more capable to deal with that, and deal with that not just in getting things done, but in a way that allows them to do it with joy, and integrity. So I would say that is one of the things that really stand out from the student experiences.
All right. Well, we're getting close to the end of the webinar, but I would like to bring Professor Gerry Geer back because he launched the online retreat program this semester. We had it running before, but now in a much more robust way. So Professor Geer runs these online retreats. Could you describe a little bit about that structure and how it supports people maybe new to meditation?
Yes. The online retreat program is part of our commitment to all students, which is that we want to be able to deliver to you not only the experience of consciousness, but various ways to deepen and strengthen and integrate that experience into your life in a fast and smooth way. So in addition to the TM practice, the university offers many modalities to do this, to approach the growth of consciousness from many different angles. And one of those is through online retreats, which are essentially a morning in which you have the opportunity for extended meditation practice balanced by some very easy poses, yoga poses. And through that process, giving the body and mind a chance to settle even more deeply into that experience of the self, that experience of pure consciousness at the basis of the thinking process, and to give the body an even deeper level of rest, which permits the jettisoning of fatigue and stress in a more accelerated way. These are available now in every block of our block system, which means that you can take advantage of them on a regular basis, which is a great thing to do in terms of enhancing the growth of higher states of consciousness through deeper rest and activity. And we are looking forward to an expanded community value of those as well. Not only are they open now to the online students in our distance ed programs, but also to our on-campus students. And that has turned out to be a big hit. Some of our on-campus classes have joined these online retreats, and everyone is thereby able to have a much deeper and more settled kind of experience of their own self, their own consciousness, and to set themselves up for a more rested, more successful, a more productive block in activity ahead.
That's a support structure that we'd like all prospective students to know about that's available to you. But you can also, outside of the structure of MIU, learn Transcendental Meditation, and then there are online retreats and even in-residence retreats available. And they're really, really essential, I feel like, especially within the first 3 months of learning TM. And it gives you the boost. It really reinforces the mechanics that you learned in the instruction. So, all right, we better wrap up. I went a little bit over time, but I wanted to give you some practical points about MIU. And I know we didn't get to all the questions, but there are a lot of resources available on YouTube. And yes, we will get to some practical points here. You are considering our university. There are a number of programs available. These list the undergraduate programs. Some of them also have, of course, a master's and a PhD level, but today is just, we're giving you a broad introduction. So you'll notice sustainable and regenerative living, regenerative organic agriculture. You can see there's a lot of these programs are based upon an ethos, this idea of as you develop yourself, naturally you start thinking more holistically and how can every aspect of life come into wholeness and better alignment with natural law. There's also practical degrees like computer science and business, but still within this idea of a consciousness-based framework. And for undergraduates, we want to mention this generous transfer policy. This is especially helpful for anyone who started a degree somewhere else and then now wants to finish it up and fast track it. Then you can transfer up to 90 credits, and then you could do the bachelor's in applied arts and sciences. We now have available an on-campus and online format for studying at a bachelor's, master's, or PhD level. There's also this new phenomenon. Ever since we went fully online, people are moving to Fairfield to take advantage of a very peaceful community, and they're still working maybe from home or in town, but they're able to take advantage of the on-campus opportunities like our Golden Dome, which you can see in this picture here. It was built for people to go and meditate in. Otherwise, Fairfield, Iowa looks like a pretty normal Iowa town, but something's a little bit different. You'll see if you come here, it's a lot more international than you typically find, and a very vibrant arts and culture community. Financial aid is available. More than 90% of the students receive financial aid. And there's a handy calculator on the website, and that can give you an estimate of what you could apply towards your degree. Every website has this apply button to make it super easy to submit your application. Our next entries are August and October. So August is all programs. October would be the online only for undergraduate. There's other ways to interact with us. You could come and visit us on a Saturday. We have a couple more this academic year. You could join us for a future interactive webinar. Most of them are very specific to degree program, but some like these, about once a month, are more general topic. And you can also request a meeting with a professor. TM.org is the website for finding a local TM teacher, or at least perhaps the closest one to you. If you are accepted as a student, you can go to any TM center and the cost of TM is included, so you won't have to pay. And finally, here's a QR code to go and find other webinars of topics you might be interested in. I noticed somebody was interested in the David Lynch screenwriting, and we just had our webinar on that, so you can find the replay here. And that brings us to the end of this webinar. We'll stay on for a little bit. Sometimes people enjoy staying for bonus questions. And our panelists, you can choose to stay for a little bit and catch any remaining questions. But if you have to go, absolutely feel free to go. But maybe you can pop on your video for a second here, just so we can say final thank you and goodbye to our panelists. And they all teach at MIU, and they have so much knowledge. So we hope that this was a good teaser. And maybe Krista, if you could mention your book a little bit. I mean, you can put it in the chat or you can just talk about it here, but you wrote a really cool book. So based on your dissertation.
Oh, thank you so much. Oh, well, my book isn't about my dissertation, but I did recently have a book released, which is about the spirituality of Star Wars, you could say, or consciousness-based principles in Star Wars. So it's called One with the Force, and then the subtitle is 18 Universal Truths in Star Wars. And it's on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, other general places you can find books, but it's a lot of fun. It goes into some deep principles, but in a really engaging way for a general audience. So, feel free to check that out if you're interested.
Well, then what was your dissertation on?
That was about physicalism, the physicalist paradigm as a counterpart to the consciousness-based paradigm and the hard problem of consciousness. So much more academic angle to that.
Yeah, yes. This is a nice follow-up that's maybe perhaps more palatable. Johannes, are you working on a PhD? Is that my understanding?
Yes, I'm exploring how these principles we discussed today and the principles of the ancient Vedic science can be connected to modern life coaching to enhance that even further. So that's the angle I'm taking in my dissertation.
Coaching? Was that part of the Maharishi Vedic Science Department or the
Yes, it's part of
ED?
the Maharishi Vedic Science Department, and it connects two passions of mine because I'm a certified life coach, and I think it's a great modality to really help people get from where they are to where they want to be.
Mhm.
And I explore the connection of doing things like TM and how that can enhance both coaching and how basically TM sort of bestows the field for you to then take a direction with greater joy and greater force.
That's good. I wanted to show how next generation is linking fields together or applying this knowledge, because I do notice that some people here had questions about a technique that they're into. So one thing I've noticed with students here is that they become really grounded in the paradigm and they really understand the model, and then they're actually better able to perhaps look at another field or a discipline and make some important connections. So just wanted to offer that. Dr. Travis, I know there were questions going to, were there any final points that you feel like we should address or?
I think we've covered them all.
Okay.
And the key point is TM gives you a different type of experience, and it just transforms your life.
There you go. All right. May the force be with you, Dan said.
Good way to end.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for staying with us to the end. It was good to feel you all, even if we couldn't see you. And we hope that you're part of our community in one way or another. We are always very passionate about our knowledge, and we want you to just have access to this as an MIU student, but through any other workshops you might have. So please join us for a future webinar. And thank you for all of your time, panelists. So wonderful to see you and be with you. With that, we'll wrap up our webinar. I'll just put the QR code back up there, and that'll be our closing slide. So thank you.
Thank you, Karen. This has been fun.
Yes, very fun.